Drug overdose has become the leading cause of accidental death in the U.S., and opioids are usually involved. Opioids are a class of drugs that act on the nervous system to relieve pain and can produce feelings of euphoria. Opioid chemicals attach to a small part of the brain cell called an opioid receptor. There are billions of tiny receptors that play different roles on the surface of neurons. Some receptors that affect feelings of pleasure and have the ability to relieve pain are naturally triggered by endogenous feel-good chemicals called endorphins. These receptors can be overwhelmed by the synthetic opioids in prescription painkillers or plant-based opiates like heroin. Opioids act on many places in the brain and nervous system, including the limbic system, which controls emotions, where opioids can create feelings of pleasure, relaxation, and contentment. The brainstem, which controls things your body does automatically. Here, opioids can slow breathing, stop coughing, and reduce feelings of pain. The spinal cord, which receives sensations from the body before sending them to the brain, where opioids can decrease feelings of pain even after serious injuries. It's important not to take more opioids than you are prescribed. Don't take other people's prescriptions, and never mix opioids with alcohol. Safer alternatives, such as over-the-counter pain medication, natural endorphin-releasing activities like exercise, as well as new developments in non-chemical pain management, may hold the key to a future with less pain and less risk of chemical dependency.
The first time I tried heroin, not only did I like it, I loved it. And it just gave me a sense of peace that I didn't have to worry about stuff anymore. I just wanted to be free of worrying about stuff all the time. You know, I was a correctional officer at the Maryland Pen, and that's when my disease started. It's a stressful place, and a lot of the correctional officers there used. I wasn't even thinking normal. I had to use because I got to go to work. And I realized that I was sick. My mother was an open person, so she told the family, you know, Joy is sick, so we have to support her. Now I realize the stress I put them under for them to see me that way. But when you're caught up in the disease, you can't see nothing but your pain. I didn't want anybody to look down on me. I didn't want to disgrace my family. So I just faked it. I figured long as I looked good, and I went to work every day, and I wasn't hurting anybody. That's what I thought. The people I admired the most, and still do today, is my mother and my grandmother. You know, my grandmother was the wisest person I ever met. My mother was the strongest person I ever met. I was raised with my great-grandmother, my grandmother, and my mother. I got to run from person to person, getting love and everybody telling me I'm wonderful. We lived around a lot of woods and unexplored areas. I loved going in the woods and finding new things to do. I had a German Shepherd. She used to come in the woods with me. I felt safe because she wasn't going to let anything happen to me. I was lost in the disease of active addiction for 30 years. I saw me. It broke my heart. I saw me. And it was the most traumatic thing that I've ever seen in my life. And I cried out to God, please. So my cry led me to a phone call. And my life just started changing drastically.
We work really hard to take away aspects of addiction that prevent proper treatment. So we work really hard to take away shame. We often fail to realize how much social circumstance impacts how people take care of themselves or how they address their health care. So it's putting together a team of people who have insight into the fact that when we take care of patients, we have to address all aspects, and especially their social setting.
Now I'm a peer recovery coach at Hopkins Bayview. So I see people sick just like, I remember when sometimes, most of the time, their pain fills the room. I talk to them, I inspire, and try to encourage and let them know where I come from, let them know it's possible. And the young people, I try to let them know that you don't have to waste 30 years. You can do it now.
Peer recovery coach can see someone in the emergency room, and then if that person gets admitted to the hospital, the same peer recovery coach goes up to see them wherever they are. And this fear and anxiety of being admitted in the hospital, and all of a sudden there's a familiar face of someone who I met in the emergency room, someone who knows about my addiction and is non-judgmental and understanding.
I say I'm free all the time from the disease of addiction because I'm free to choose. I didn't have a choice when I was using. And I'm free to make my dreams come true. See, I'm truly free today. I'm free to love because now I'm learning how to do it because I didn't know how to before. So, it's not the sky's the limit, the sky and beyond.
Anytime someone hears the term motivation, they should really supplant that with dopamine. Because without dopamine, you don't have motivation.
All drugs of abuse cause this unnatural rise of dopamine. And because of that, they're among the most powerful experiences our brains can have. Individuals struggling with addiction are actually battling millions of years of evolution because our brains are exquisitely evolved to seek rewards.
Body decreases the production of dopamine. Eventually, you can't even get enough dopamine produced to get out of bed, let alone produce good relationships and good decision making.
Former drug addict turned millionaire is sharing his story to inspire others. Khalil Rafati was a homeless heroin addict. He turned his life around and began a popular Los Angeles juice chain. His unlikely journey is documented in his book, I Forgot to Die. Maria Villarreal shows us how it's a constant reminder of his troubled past.
One day I woke up and this was my life, and I couldn't get out.
On the streets of LA's notorious Skid Row, the smell of crack and heroin and human waste hangs in the air. For 47-year-old Khalil Rafati, it brings back old memories.
That triggers me a little bit, seeing a syringe.
I wouldn't have even noticed that, but you picked that up in an instant.
Yeah, because that's what I used every 15 minutes.
Rafati grew up in Ohio. He escaped a childhood scarred by physical and sexual abuse by moving to Los Angeles. But there was no escaping his demons. Rafati started using and selling drugs. That led to a felony drug conviction and later his descent into heroin addiction and homelessness.
This is the last house on the block. I had nowhere else to go. This is where I could get drugs and I could panhandle. It's like being hijacked. You have to have drugs.
More than once, Rafati ended up in the Los Angeles County Jail.
So you actually haven't been back here since
you
were released from jail?
Yeah. Now that gave me a shudder.
Yeah?
That inside there is way worse than where we just were.
How bad were the withdrawals in there?
The worst ever. On a cold cement floor, just, horrible.
Rafati has been sober for 13 years now, but admits he still thinks about getting high sometimes. What stops him, he says, is the life he has now.
That's as California as you can get.
A thriving business he built with his partner, Haley Gorsey, and the roughly 200 employees that depend on him.
Smile.
Sun Life Organics has 6 locations in Los Angeles.
Trust God, clean house, help others, right?
His flagship shop in Malibu, with its loyal celebrity clientele, sells superfood smoothies and a healthy lifestyle that Rafati credits with saving his life.
Yeah, hibiscus, orange, alkaline water, and raw honey.
It's a long way from Skid Row.
What was the point where you were like, no, this really is the end. I'm stopping.
The seizures, the abscesses, my teeth were literally rotting out of my head. So just the physical condition that I was in really drove me to kind of have the realization that like my time is pretty much up if I don't make a change.
After finally getting clean, Rafati started working odd jobs, doing yard work and cleaning houses. That led to steady jobs, then investments, and eventually a successful business venture focused on, of all things, wellness.
What's up, buddy? How was the run?
Great.
Yeah. When I completely fell apart was when I wasn't working. I gotta work.
Rafati says he got a second chance at life, but his past remains very much a part of his present.
The addict in me is what I bring to this operation. This relentless pursuit of greatness and pure, authentic self-expression. That's what it's all about. So what I bring to the table is being nuts.
Could you say that this has become your new drug?
This isn't just my new drug. This is my antidepressant, and it's the greatest antidepressant I've ever tried, and I've tried them all.
What is that advice that you give to maybe not just recovering addicts, but also people out there who have the dream that you had of owning a business?
Never, ever, ever give up.
Period.
That's it. Never give up.
For CBS This Morning, Mireya Villarreal, Los Angeles.
Is this the medication that saved Demi Lovato's life? It's called Narcan, and it's an emergency antidote that rapidly reverses the effects of an opioid overdose. It's so effective, it can actually bring people back from the brink of death.
Patient is unconscious.
The medication's life-saving power is shown in the Netflix documentary, Heroin.
He's alive. We gave him 0.4 milligrams of Narcan.
So what exactly is this so-called miracle cure?
Narcan is a very simple and very safe drug, very similar to an EpiPen. It presses pause on the opiate overdose and allows the person to resume breathing.
Kaylin C. is director at the Washington Heights Corner Project in New York, which offers free Narcan kits and training.
Take the syringe out, flip the orange cap off the medication like this, take off the cap, draw up the medication, and then you're just going to inject this medication into the muscle, which is going to be the upper arm, the thigh, or the side of the buttocks, right here.
Narcan can also be administered through a nasal spray.
You take this, you open it, you got your gloves on, you've checked to make sure that they actually are having an overdose, so you try to wake them up. You don't want to Narcan someone that's sleeping. You tilt the head back, you put the atomizer up the nose, and you compress. Done. It takes less than a second.
You can find Narcan in just about every pharmacy in the USA. In most states, permit it to be sold over the counter, no prescription necessary. And you don't need a medical professional to use it. Dr. Kevin Gilliland is an addiction specialist.
You only use Narcan in an emergency. If you're a loved one or a friend of someone who's struggling with opiates, pain meds, or heroin, or if they've been clean for a while, you should have it just in case something happens.
Demi Lovato's friends reportedly had Narcan on hand in case something like this happened. According to one source, it saved her life.